Okay, we're back. Um, so I've been having a look, been thinking, like I think the blue's becoming pretty good. I think like maybe some of the highlights of the sort of outer rims of the reflections and things like that will need to be worked in. But I think as a general, the colours are quite nice. I particularly like this colour as opposed to this colour. And this is more blue, whereas this I think just starts having a greenish tinge where I've added a bit of yellow in. Just going to get up the photo. So I think that's sort of, we need more of this color, and like where I'm going to put that color is a lot in here, sort of just follow where the darkness sort of lies. And then I think once we do that, I'm just going to leave it, because then I need to paint in the land. And then once I paint in the land, I think that's when we can sort of come back to the blue and revisit it with that light sort of reflective look, which will really like bring it to life in the different forms. So I think that's sort of the game plan today, is maybe get a lot of this white finished. I'm still unclear exactly how to do this mountain. We've sort of got some land coming like through, where is it? It says in 9 with about 25. So 25 and 9's up there. So if I can do it lower, but if I can do this land, sort of it's like an inlet coming in, holding it together. Don't know if that will look a bit weird, because I suppose it's a big lake. So anyway, it looks like it's, we can always make it do something. So we'll do a bit of a land in here. I think I'm going to have this mountain, but it's going to be a little bit not quite like the photo. Yeah, I sort of cropped it, the photo that was taken, and so what I've cropped that you can't see, I think I'm going to bring up, because that sort of gives the perspective of the mountain that you're on. So it's going to be more or less similar to this sort of color, but maybe a little bit less muted, a little bit more muted, I would say, and just create that sort of downward looking, as if the mountain's coming down here. So, and then the rest of this is going to be in the not in the sun. So it's going to be all, and that's sort of why I've left this area, because it's going to be this darkish green, which will then really bring together everything. So that's the plan of attack. So I suppose we just start making the color. Now, firstly, I've got to see what, that brush feels a bit too hard. So let's see what this color's doing. So I'm unsure. So you can see this color is quite different to that, but we will get it going nonetheless. And it doesn't need to be a lot. I think that's like a lot of yellow. I think that's the key. Okay. Just a little bit of that yellow. Like I really don't want to put in too much of it. You know, like just a little bit on my, we're gonna have to mix some. But I think yellow nonetheless, and I think from memory we're not using this ultramarine, so I'll put that away and take out. So it's interesting. I think, I was really thinking it was purple, but I actually don't think it. Well, there was two things. I worked out that I had the wrong blue, and I think that's more like what we're looking for. I had the wrong blue, which was sort of creating that. Probably need a bigger brush, to be honest. It's creating that effect, that wrong blue sort of. And this is I think the beauty of oils. So I can just go a little bit over, and it's just, I haven't got much on my brush. The paint's pretty dry. So like, you're not really gonna, but it's like, that's sort of, I think, let's have a look. Yeah, that's definitely more like what we're looking for, and it sort of has its moments over here. Definitely gets a bit darker around here, so it's a little bit more wet here. This is where the bottom of the painting is going to be, so I think we're could look a bit strange, but yeah, and it's just constant, just adjusting. Like purple didn't look right. I figured out that blue. Once I figured out the blue difference, I think that's was then I was really started to realize that, okay, maybe I can get the color I'm sort of hoping to achieve. Now we definitely have this in here as well. Sort of stops around 25, so. I'm just using the end of the bristles. Trying to make it really smooth. I think that's sort of the color that we're aiming for. Has a bit of, maybe we can go a bit lighter with that color. I don't think we really have this lightness. I want to get rid of that. This is my only downfall of the setup of the canvas. You really have like, I've got quite a bit of give. It sort of pulls in weird directions, unfortunately. So just got to work with it. But I suppose you could try to fix it, but went too hard on the brush there, and you sort of see it. I don't know why it's so bad. Maybe it needs to be lifted up a little bit. But anyway. Like, I wonder if... It's hard to know. Sometimes you just got to go for it. Just got to live with it, I should say. Alright, so I'm actually like pretty happy with this colour. It's crazy what just a little bit of that yellow, really, what it does, because it just mutes the blue. And I just want to really try to get that, like now I can see that blue's really not working. I wonder if I can make a lot more just to really get this all. Like, it's just applying similar philosophy of every other colour. Like why... Obviously some colours look a bit more like, you got to mix it in, but I've painted 3/4 of the picture with almost no red. Like just a slight red, at the base of that snow, which is barely perceptible, and we sort of have only got it in a few markings, some of that icy purple, but outside of that it's been, blues, whites and yellows. So it sort of makes sense that it's not a colour that's in the painting, really, for such a large mass as well. So I'm just going over, making it nice and smooth. Using some of that oil. I think this just creates a bit of a... I suppose the only thing you got to be careful of is like flicking the paint. So if you have it a bit wet, just be mindful of that. It can really flick. I like when I first started with the oils, I was in a room and I'd end up with a lot of flicked blue on the walls. Okay, so I think I'm like reasonably happy. Now, I suppose we just paint in a bit. This is sort of what I wanted, just to get it to this sort of state. And then we can sort of make the necessary adjustments once it's painted in with the rest. Because again, the colours can change depending what's around it. So I think it's got to be a pretty... All right, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. It's good, and it's just constant adjustments, like seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. Yeah, adjusting, and then we continue on. So now we're on to the sort of colour in here, which is going to feed into here. And so I suppose we prep for that. So if I have a look, so there's a dark green, there's almost like a yellowy brown, and like a sage green, like a light one. Okay, so again, we got our beautiful blue here already. So what we'll do is we'll add some green into that, see what happens out of it. And then we're going to have to make quite a dark green as well. Because that sagey green is like, you know, it's a lot of sky blue, a lot of white. What I mean when all the colours sort of work together, because I'm just, you know, I've got just the tiny bit of green. Now this could be, just want to mix it into its self there. Okay, so we're going to go in here. So let's have a look. It's quite blue. Definitely has that vibe. So I think that's actually that's probably our lighter one. It's actually not too bad. Now we're going to go into our dark one. And now I know that these blues are different. There's a skin in there. So I'm going to add some of that beautiful blue. Yeah, we've got a nice rich. Yeah, I think it's going to make it a lot easier now to do my dark green. Wonder how that looks. I think that's going to be good. No, that's probably our dark, but once we mix it with the light, could be nice. It's in the light green. What else? I feel like that's mainly it, and then we can do a combo. So later on, so two colors. You've got sort of the extremes of both, but then it's like, okay, this brush doesn't feel good, but. Actually feels terrible. That's nice. Oh, that's pretty good. So it really is this lightish green up until sort of this line on top of 9. So it becomes a bit of a darker green beyond this area. So I think what we'll do is sort of paint that. We'll just paint this area you're in. Fill it all up. Now down here, it is actually there as well. So I sort of like this. I might need more. And it's going to look a little bit flat for now, but we can build in our mountains and the little things going on. May need more of that colour. God. Goes quick. And then we're going to sort of feed that in. But what I mean is when we can sort of build it in, because it looks like, like maybe some fields here, a bit darker. There's a bit of a darkening over here. So again, it's just trying to play with the eyes, see what's going to work. And I know this is sort of lined. I'm hoping that that's where that line is. It looks like it's just above 9. Just in the 9. Yeah, so it's about there. We sort of have this thing going. Sort of has a little inlet there, and it comes down here. Just try to play with your eyes, play with the shapes. Okay, and it's like trees lined and stuff, so I think that's really good in this situation. Darkness. You know, we got trees lined. Doesn't look that dark here, does it? Tree lining all the way, sort of out like that. You know, there's a bit in there as well. So it looks like we got some fields going, maybe. This sort of looks too sharp. Like, I think it's maybe looks a bit more natural like that. Like it was looking too mountainous. I think it looks safe to say it's a bit like that. Even now we've long there that, but we want to like sort of create that up there. That's a little interesting section. Looks a bit weird. I suppose just trying to set it up, like, you know, like there's no real rhyme or reason. It's just sort of saying, okay, we're going to come around here. I'm just sort of, so we can look to try to have it where we want, but we've just got to sort of go with it. So this is where I'm going. So now I think something like that as the shape. You know, when it sort of comes down, and it's probably not the right brush to be doing this, but it just gives us a bit of an indication. Okay, where am I going? What am I doing? I think maybe this can come a bit lower. So that brings us this inlet in, and then we've sort of got this mountain happening there, but that's sort of the general gist. I've run out of paint. That's all right. In the early days, I think definitely can go a lot darker. And the base of those mountains are going to be, they're quite a dark green where the sun isn't. Interesting. So even like I'm because the sun is sort of on this, and then this is in the dark, but I think we need to cut this yellow and be a bit more green. And that's going to really, once we like feed in this dark green into here, we're going to get the mountainous look and then go into there. So a few things to do. What I'll do first is get that light green back. Okay, so we got the water sort of shape happening now. Yeah. So it does have this island that, where is that? That's sort of in line, it's 11 and 9, 9 and 11. So it sort of comes out here. It's good to like get those in, just see where we're working towards. Have it all work together. You know, and then we sort of create like, but yeah, it's a bit bigger than that in real life. Whereas this water comes to 10 and 5 and 6. 5 and 6. So the water actually should come into this area, 5 and 6. So, because this is about as far as you want to do it, and then we need the water to like cut in there. So that's something we can do later on. Yeah, it's just trying to get some texture in. And then if we cut the water in, yeah, and then we're going to have all this reflection in here. So this is going to be like a reflective area that we're going to see, because it looks quite still in that sort of area. I really need a ton more paint. Let's get going. A lot of blue. Looks almost like too much blue, to be honest. A lot of white. Okay, I've made a ton of this. God. Okay, it looks very light. So I'll probably take some over here. It's like a minty green. That's the ship brush. So you can see this is the lightest. It's too light probably. This gets a bit darker. So the hard thing is going to be able to like feed these mountains, but then sort of create a sort of base of the mountains. So I think we're just going to have to deal with that when we come to the situation. It's a bit more of just a fill-in job at the moment. Because because we just need that colour in here, to be honest. So we're going to feed it in. Again, we're going to maybe start getting this like, I think we could try to make this a little bit rough. And the reason would be, I feel like I've got such nice detail on the mountains that like you just want, you know, like what do you want to be the focus? And I think we can do some detail down here on the reflections and some of that stuff, but a lot of this color, like it's not that it's unimportant, but it's not going to be what's drawing the viewer to the painting. And they're going to be like, oh wow, look at that color. No, it can change, but I think ideally would be sort of so it looks almost too minty. It's not quite that greeny blue. I'm just going to consult the photo one time. Yeah, we probably need to start doing a bit of a bluer colour. And I think for that we need that good blue. Like maybe some more green. Yes. It's all very blue. It's all very blue. Let's get that green out again. Okay. Maybe some smaller brushes. Not like the most peaceful of sounds, someone cutting a hedge, but that's okay. So it's a bit of a strange line. This is actually more like, it's not as, so it comes here, comes up a bit, goes in there, something like that, I think. We can really just we've got that basin sort of happening in there. We're sort of losing exactly where it is here, so let's do our best to guide the eye. It's just like simple colours. You know, I think I sort of like this green that's coming in. It's creating a bit more of a cooler element. Just see how it interacts, like, and maybe we're going to add the darkness a bit later on, but it's looking a little bit greeny, landy sort of vibe. It does sort of, now I think this green, see look how blue it looks. Wow. It does sort of scoot off in there. So we'll have to fix that up. I also think this here, this blue. So like, where do we want this mountain to stop? That really pushes that mountain back. You know, it could even go a bit darker, to be honest. Like, I just don't want to ruin this beautiful yellow I've got going. And I think having the blue there will make it So what colours we got going here? Okay, so almost there. I think we need to start getting this sort of darkish green to come through, because that's sort of what we need. And then we can mix it up into there. Just sit down and have a look. Yes, we really need that dark green. I also think it's a bit... I think this mountain needs to actually come all the way. Just looks like it's floating in midair. I think it looks too weird. So I think if we get this dark line, need to get this dark color, bring it down, and then sort of fade it in. So I think that's sort of the first point of call. Got a lot of light, I need the dark. So I wonder if we can... It's very dark. I want a bit more blue. That's such a rich green. Now I wonder if I can maybe use this. A bit of difference. Oh, sort of taking the paint off there. And maybe we can add the green, the darkness on the... Interesting. So it's definitely not the color I'm hoping for. So what we're going to do, get a lot of blue. I think that colour's good. I wonder if we add just a touch of yellow to it. Touch more. So interestingly, I am using the ultramarine blue, which is what I couldn't use in the water, but I don't know why I just couldn't use it in the water. It just didn't work. Anyway, check this out. Oh God, this brush. What am I doing? Can we... Alright, then I'm gonna squeeze that in. Okay, that just looks a little bit nicer. We can really make it. You know, I think that just gives us the sort of 3 separations. We can sort of bring this hillside into here. Yeah, see that's sort of creating a nice effect. And then I think what we want to do is continue that. You know, down into this hill, and then this hill will come over in the front of it. So let's just get that all going. Okay, then is this the soft one? Okay, and if you really wanted to have a little bit of fun, I think this is where we can now, like, do we have a little bit of a green? And create a bit of distance. At the foot of this mountain here. All right, so that's all getting sort of in there. Yeah, that's sort of a nice thing to sort of work into. You can just cut that. Okay, so that lift up sort of just takes it back. Same concept there. If we think like it's too much, sort of like fuzz, like that halo, you can always just add more dark. Oh, we can fix that up later, no stress. All right, so we've really, I think this has sort of clarified a lot of things. That's really far back, this is coming in, this is in front, and then these are now going to do what we need to do. Now if we get a new brush, bless you. Like now we want to, oh, it's the oil. It's very blue. Like I think we really want to probably a bit too blue, but see what I mean? Like it only looks too blue because there's so much yellow. I know this sort of looked nice-ish. I definitely need a bit more of a warm green, but that already has brought this mountain, forward. Like in terms of it's coming here, so then maybe we can drop it in there, or I think something like that where it's I just wonder if we can maybe let's put it in there. A bit like that. And then that really, I think, has rotated the mountain sort of facing there. I want to get it more of a nicer green. Okay. Yeah, I quite like that greenish colour. And I think we've almost a bit more like that. Yeah, and I think that's sort of what I'm hoping for. And I think that really just creates some nice depth. I'm unsure if this line works. I'm just going to get rid of it completely. And I think that's really what that's come out quite nice. It's just simple adjustments. Yeah, I think that's I think all I'm going to do, pretty much going to leave it there, but I just don't want this to dry. Sort of icy blue. So I think this colour is very good. So we'll make sure we get some green in it. This is quite icy blue, which is not the right colour. Maybe as long as it's not completely that terrible blue. All right, so we'll get this really nice dark green. I need to really work it out. And then we're going to build this dark green and sort of try to get similar darkish green over here and have that sort of fall into this sort of area. But I think that's a good start. I quite like this space, and then this. It really is creating that sunshine, which is again like this. It's just falling elegantly, beautifully. That's what we want to keep consistent.